a lot of people listening will be like, where's Ben Rama? Where's Easy? Talk about them. So we'll give them a little bit of what they want. I mean, the options. I'd like to talk about Watkins, actually, because he's a player that I haven't seen too much of. I saw him the other day score a brilliant goal for Brentford in the playoff. He's rumoured to have an £18 million release clause, which when I saw was like, saw him play a very sort of short judgment, but I thought, jump on it. 18 million in this market is really nothing.
Exactly, yeah. A fact about Watkins is he used to play centre mid a few years ago at Exeter. So that just shows how far he's come. And he's been better than Ben Rama, the likes of Mbeumo this season, because of the fact that he is so intelligent at holding the ball up, making the runs. He can play anywhere across the front three. 26 goals this season, by the way. 26 goals. You know, when of course, naturally you question, but would he do that in a Premier League? And you've got to think he would. He'd be the perfect partner next to Haller, or even to replace Haller with Haller on the bench coming on. And Watkins, yes, you've got to think about the system, but you know, because Brentford's a 4-3-3 system, you know, they like to play expansive football. Would he fit into West Ham? You know, you've got to do your homework on that. But 2.8 shots per game, 1.5 key passes per game. You know, he's vital because he likes to drop deep. He's good link-up play. He's a lot stronger than what he looks as well as Watkins, and he's got pace, and he's a very good finisher.
What I thought was really interesting as well with Watkins is when I saw him score his goal, he actually came off the wing slightly to do it. And I don't know how Brentford play. Obviously, so they're quite expansive. So I imagine there's an element of fluidity and changing wings and things like that. I saw a really interesting quote from Paul Tisdale, who was the Exeter manager. And he actually said that Watkins was suffering a little bit from sort of a positional psychology where he wasn't getting in the right positions and he wasn't very comfortable and he wasn't going to pick up the ball. And has said since obviously this season, he's begun to collect the ball from the left and different wings and sort of coming central. But equally, he scored a fantastic goal down the middle. So he has got that movement centrally.
He has, and a variety of goals he scored this season. He scored tap-ins, he scored long ranges, he scored volleys, he scored headers. You know, he has got that natural ability. And like the Exeter manager said, you know, it's about getting the right players around you. Thomas Frank, and I think the manager before that, I can't remember his name exactly, but he's, you know, they've progressed him well. And you've got to think, if Watkins came to West Ham, would he continue to progress, or would he regress, or would he stay at Brentford and continue to progress under a system where him, Ben Rama and Mbeumo rotate all the time? They're so difficult to handle. They're so difficult to handle, which is why I think if Brentford come up, which I'm highly sure they will be coming, I'll remember that because they probably won't now. But you know, if they,
Scott Parker masterclass on the playoff line.
Yeah, Scott Parker, honestly. But if they do, I think they'll become a Sheffield United in the fact they'll do so well. You know, Leeds will do well as well. But Brentford are a good team in the fact that, you know, as they play that expansive system. That's my new favourite word. But and that's why Watkins has done so well this season.
I think it's interesting, just on the sort of topic of teams coming up from the Championship. You know, since I started watching football, you know, I'm used to teams coming up and playing deep and playing long ball. And it's really in the last couple of years, we've seen teams, even last year, come up and, you know, try and play football. And even when Fulham come up, to the detriment, really, when they came up, they were playing the same style of football, but obviously they weren't being successful with it. But they were very principled about how they wanted to do it. And I think now we're seeing teams that get promoted because they know the fragility of Premier League safety, that they just think, let's just play the way we want to play, keep the identity, and then let's see how far we go with it. And obviously Sheffield United are the best example of that because they've blown a lot of teams out of the water with their formation and how difficult it is to kind of prepare for it. But I just think next season is going to be so interesting because you're going to have West Brom, Leeds and Brentford all play good football. And I wonder how, irrespective of who they bring in, how they're going to approach teams and how they're going to attack some of the bigger teams.
Exactly, completely. And I don't think any of the three that will come up, West Brom, Leeds, Brentford, I don't think any of them will go down because if you look at their recruitment, it's smart. They've got an identity. Bilic will have a idea of how he wants to play. Thomas Frank will have an idea of what he wants to play. Their recruitment won't necessarily be vast. You look at, that's how Villa has struggled this season. They've brought in about 11 players, I think, and they've overspent arguably. But I think with the likes of Brentford, Leeds will have an identity. Bielsa, Thomas Frank will get in the players they want. They'll outline a structure, which is why they'll do so well. And like you touched on, Sheffield United, that's why they've done so well. They haven't signed luxury players, like Ben Rama or anything like that. They've got Billy Sharp, Lise Mousset was a good addition as well. And they've got, if you look at Sheffield United, I think they've got bottom three, one of the worst squads in the league, respectively. I do. They've not got a lot of squad depth, but they work as a unit. Wilder's got an idea of how they want to play, and they've done fantastically well this season, which is why I think Brentford, Leeds, West Brom will do well as well.
I think that's so interesting with Sheffield United because I can't remember what game, it might have been I watched the Sheffield United Leicester when Leicester beat them 2-0. And Wilder was absolutely fuming, but he actually turned around on TV and was like, these are League One players. They're going to have to play in this system in order to be Premier League players. I thought that's such a refreshing attitude to have. He wasn't doing a Mourinho style, let's just dig out a player or be sort of sly about it. He just identified, this is what I want, this is the expectation. And I think when you've got real strong managers like Bielsa and Frank, where they know what style they want to play, players that come up, even though the quality's changed, you're still very regimented in what you want to try and achieve. And actually that works in your favour pretty much. And I think Villa arguably are kind of the only team that sort of tried to change a little bit how they wanted to play. They brought too many players in and it didn't work. And I think where they were actually successful in the end was by being very defensive after Project Restart. And they obviously began to pick up points and results.
Exactly. It's refreshing, like you said, and it gives a new kind of format for teams that come up in the fact that they think, do we sign big players? Do we spend £100 million? Or do we just rectify the positions that we need and that we're lacking in squad depth and improve from there? That's what I heard an extraordinary thing the other day that Bielsa had. Bielsa's, massive with his analysis, as you can see with the Derby propaganda and all of that, spying, etc. He had, I think it was an opposition third choice goalkeeper. He had a 12-page analysis on.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
Which is crazy. And at the end of the day, you've got Bielsa, Frank, Bilic. Bilic when he was at West Ham, obviously you've seen, they have a structure, they have an identity of how they want to play. And I think that'll be refreshing for the Premier League, rather than teams that come up and think we need to spend £100 million to stay in this league. We need to sign players that, have played in this league before, because you don't necessarily need to do that.
And I think as well, like we've seen from teams that have been promoted, there are players that do perform in the Premier League level. And I think if we sort of balk at the 18 million for Watkins sort of transfer fee, Callum Wilson a few seasons ago was a Championship striker, did play in League One, and he made the step up very, very quickly. And it proves that if the quality's there, in the right team, you will find sort of those chances. I'm slightly concerned with Watkins, not on a talent level, because I think it's almost like a no-brainer, but how he would play with Allaire. I mean, potentially I would actually like to see him play with maybe Grady and Bowen on either side, because I think they're obviously all very quick. There's that level of fluidity that suits all of them in terms of creating chances for each other. And so I think you don't want to bring Watkins in and almost sort of say to Allaire, you just sit on the bench for another season.
Yeah, exactly, mate. That's where the problems come in at the end of the day. And if we, I know we are targeting Watkins, but you've got to think, like you say, if you put Grady on the left, Watkins up front, Bowen on the right, in a central system, with them close to each other, that could benefit Watkins really well, because that's how he's played this season. But if you say to Watkins, listen, we're going to play you as a lone striker, with a wide system, that's not going to suit him. So that's why I think he may stay at Brentford for another season, if they come up and flourish in the Premier League, because I'm sure he will, because he's a brilliant player. Yeah,
I'd love to see him in there. And yeah, I just think for that price, it's a little bit of... I know we're in this market.
It's a no-brainer.
Mate, I know apparently we've got no money and all this thing, but you do look at it and think, if we were clever about the sales, if allegedly we had no money, we could bring in certain players for a decent value and a decent return.